Hi, I'm Dave Vickers and welcome to the Photo Show. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at using the graduated filter within the Lightroom. So I've opened up an image here. It was actually a candid shot taken from a wedding. I was doing a setup for the bride and groom, and the page boy and bridesmaid were just playing on the hillside. So I took a quick shot, and this is the shot we've got here. So before I get into using the graduated filter, I'm going to do a really quick edit on this photo just to get it up to where I want it. So first thing I'm going to do here is just raise the exposure a little bit, just so we can see them. I think about there is fine. I'm going to bring the highlights down, so we're bringing a bit more detail into the sky there. I'm going to open the shadows up a little bit so we've got a bit more detail on them. Just adjust the white, so holding down Alt and moving the slider to start to see a little bit of white appear. That's way too much, so bring that back down just so we've got a tiny little bit of white. About there will be fine. Do the same with the blacks. Hold down the Alt key while you're clicking the slider. Bring that back down till we start to get some areas of black showing through. Let go of the Alt key. And there we go. That's a really quick edit. I'm going to add a little bit of clarity as well, I think. Just a little bit there. Okay, so that's a really quick edit. If you ever want to see where you've got to, you've got a couple of options. You've got the Y here, which will give you a before and after. So you've got the before on the left-hand side and the after on the right-hand side here. So you've got quite a good visual way there. But coming out of that, press Y and come back to your full screen. A quicker way is if you use the / key on your keyboard, hold that down, and that will show you the before. Let it go, and that shows you the after. So before and after, just by pressing down the / key on your keyboard. So it's a really good way just to check exactly where you've got to. So there we go. I've got a really basic edit working on this photo now. But what I'd like to do is to bring out more of the detail in the sky here. I think the sky could do with a bit more work in it, but I don't want to affect the rest of the image. So what I'm going to do is use the graduated filter. So in our toolbar here, just below the histogram, the little rectangle symbol here is our graduated filter, and you can either click on that or just use the keyboard shortcut of pressing M. Once we click that, you can see now that it's opened up another dialog box underneath, and this is all the settings that we can use for our graduated filter. As you can see at the moment, everything is on 0, so everything's going to have absolutely no effect at all. If we come into the image ourselves, you can see now we have a little cross icon. If we click and drag, you can see now that it's starting to open up 3 sets of lines. And what these 3 sets of lines represent is how the graduated filter is going to work. The center line here is going to be the middle point, the neutral point of the graduated filter. The top here is going to be where it's going to have the most effect, so 100%, and the bottom here is where it's going to have 0 effect. So between those lines, the spaces between those lines dictates how much that filter graduates. Just as an example, let's show you now. Let's open up the filter so we're taking up the whole sky. And what I'm going to do is just adjust the exposure. If I crank the exposure all the way up to the top now, you can see at the top the exposure is completely blown out and over the top, but at the bottom it's having virtually no effect at all. If we just hover on our circle there, you can see it brings up the red area that shows where the masking is happening, and you can see at the top here that we're having a lot of effect, and the mask gradually fades away as it comes down between the 2 lines. If we close the lines up, so use the little hand tool and close them closer together, that graduation will be less. So you can see now that the amount that's being graduated by the filter is a lot less. But I think for this example, what I want to do is to graduate the entire sky. So at the top here, we're going to have 100%, fading all the way down to 0% at the bottom line here. If we bring our cursor near the dot, you can see we've got the little curved arrow now, and that will allow us to alter the angle of the graduated filter. But because the sky is at that angle with the tree line, I'm going to keep it like that. So let's bring the exposure back down now. So double click on that, and that will bring us back to 0. So at the moment, the graduated filter is having 0 effect. We've got no settings on our right hand side here. But now we can start to play around with those settings to have an effect on the sky itself. So Let's for a start, let's bring the exposure down on the sky a little bit. And you can see there that it's actually darkening down the top half of the sky, and it's graduating out to the bottom there. Let's drop the highlights a little bit. I'm going to drop the shadows as well. I think the aim, what I'm trying to do here, is to bring a little bit more detail into the sky, give it a bit more drama and a bit more feel. Again, we've got our blacks and whites sliders. Increase the whites, lower the whites. Lower the whites a little. And we'll bring the blacks down as well, just to give a bit more detail in the sky. We can now add a bit of clarity. If we wanted the clouds really to pop, we could add a lot of clarity, and that's giving a lot of definition to the clouds. If we wanted it to be a lot softer, bring the clarity down, and you're getting a much more dreamy kind of effect with the sky there. But I think we're going to add a little bit of clarity. Just about there will do. Dehaze, you can use it. I'm not sure if this would work on the sky. Let's give it a go. If we crank it all the way up to the top, that's really pushing things to an extreme that we don't really want. If we put it down the other way, that's really overexposing and blowing out the sky. So I think we'll leave the dehaze at 0 as it is. Saturation, if we really wanted to make the colours in the sky really stand out and pop, we could crank up the saturation there. But I think with this image, that's now looking oversaturated. We could go the other opposite way and take the saturation out and have an almost monochrome sky. But I think we'll just add a little bit of saturation into the sky there. Then you've got your sharpness, noise, and moire and defringe here, but I think we're going to leave those just as they are. So to come out of the graduated filter, you can either click the icon again or just press M on your keyboard. And now it's brought everything back to its basic thing. But if we now press our backslash key, that's where the image started out. That's where we are now. That's where the image started out. That's where you are now. And you can see how much more detail we've put in the sky. Let's bring the graduated filter back in. So click the icon there, and you can see that it appears there, and we can still make more adjustments to the graduated filter. At the bottom of the box here, we've actually got an on-off toggle switch, so we can turn off the graduated filter and see what effect just that has had. So that's with the graduated filter on. That was with it off before we started. Back on, off. And you can see the difference we've made. We've brought lots more color and detail into the sky there. So that's one way of using the graduated filter. Let's look at using it in another way as well. So I'm going to click back on the graduated filter, and you can see now that it says new. We can edit this one by clicking on the dot there, or we've got now an option to add another graduated filter. You can add these as many times as you like. So let's bring that in there, and this time I want to add a horizontal graduated filter. I don't want it slanted, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down my shift key. That will hold it straight and give us a horizontal graduated filter. So we've got a brand new graduated filter here horizontally across the bottom of the image. You see now, if we now hover over this to show where the masking is, you can see that actually that this time the effect is going to happen from the top of the image down to the bottom. That's not what I wanted on this. What I actually want is to happen from the bottom coming up. So what I need to do is to turn this graduated filter around. So we'll get a little arrow icon there, and we'll just spin it around 180 degrees to there. And now if we hover over our masking section, you can see now what's happening is the graduated filter is going to work at the bottom of the image and leave the top of the image unaffected. We can show that by just upping the exposure, and you can see there that it's affecting the bottom half of the image and not the top half. Put that back to 0. And what I'd like to do on this time is to adjust the sharpness. So what I'm going to try and do is bring this area so it's less in focus. If we crank the sharpness all the way up there, you can see it's sharpening that bottom of the grass there, but I'm going to bring it all the way down to give it a slight blurring effect there. I'm going to bring the bottom up to there. If we use our masking section, what I don't want to do is to blur up to where their feet are in this image, so let's bring it up a little bit more there. and you can see it's just affecting this bottom half of the image. If we turn that on and off, so if we drop the clarity, let's drop the clarity down as well. Okay, so I think I'm happy with that. If we come out of our graduated filter now, and we'll do the backslash for the before and after, that's where our image started before the edit. And now you can see we've added a graduated filter, which has brought more color and definition into the sky. And we've added another graduated filter at the bottom here, which we've used to adjust our sharpness. So we've got almost like a slight tilt shift effect here, where the bottom of the image is out of focus, going into focus to where the children are in the image, moving on to the graduated filter that we've added there. We'll click back on the graduated filter now. For example, let's say in our top filter here, so we click on there, and that's going to give us our top filter. If the graduated filter was starting to affect this area here, and what we wanted was just the sky, we can now come across to our brush tool. We click on the brush tool, and at the bottom here, we're going to click erase. You can see now we've got a brush icon here with a minus symbol in the middle of it. That means we're going to be taking away the effects that we've added with the graduated filter. So you can just brush across the tree line here and the girl's face there, just so that the graduated filter is only affecting the sky area. It's not affecting anything below it. So there you go. That's a really quick tutorial on how you use the graduated filter tool in Lightroom. Let's bring that back out. We'll do a quick side-by-side view. There's where our image started before any editing. Here we go. There's with a little bit of editing, using a graduated filter on the top here to bring out more detail in the sky, and another graduated filter in the bottom here just to adjust the sharpness to give a slight tilt shift effect there. So we come back to there, and again, if we want to see before and after, pressing the backslash key, there's our before, there's our after. So really quickly, with a really quick edit and using 2 graduated filters, we've made a huge difference to this image. So for now, I'm Dave Vickers, this is The Photo Show. Thanks for watching, see you next time.